Hello, I'm Miss April, and today we're talking about hardware, tools and accessories, and materials. For this and the rest of our videos, we will be using a Cameo 3 or a Cameo 4. Let's start with the Silhouette Cameo 3. The Cameo 3 has an LCD touchscreen where you can load, unload media, and change machine settings. You can also access mini tutorials that help you use the machine, and you can also send your project through Bluetooth. It also has the feature to save to and cut from a USB device. You can save your project from your computer to a USB device, and then cut directly from your Silhouette without needing to send it using the computer. It has storage compartments that help you store your tools or extra blades. And here are the adjustable rollers that help hold your project materials in place. If you're using media that is longer than the cutting mat, the cross cutter lets you separate the finished project from the rest of the media. You basically use it like you would use a paper cutter. This creates a perfectly straight edge. This can come in handy if you're using rolls of vinyl. The tool carriages are marked with a tiny red circle on the left and a blue circle on the right. You insert your tools in their corresponding holders assigned in the send panel. So essentially, you can insert both a blade and a sketch pen and have the two work in one cut job without having to remove one to insert the other and sending it twice. Now let's take a look at the Cameo 4. The Cameo 4 has a simplified touch panel. It allows you to load, unload, and to connect to Bluetooth. It does not have the ability to save to and cut from a USB device. It also doesn't have a storage compartment at the bottom like with the Cameo 3. However, you can store an extra blade in the storage compartment on the side of your machine. You can slide it to the left, place your tool inside, and then slide it back into place. You can adjust the white rollers on the main roller shaft to cut the following media sizes: A4, letter, 12 inches, and 13 inches, which is what you'll use to cut materials on a 12 by 12 cutting mat. A cutting mat is used to hold project materials in place. A Cameo 4 has a built-in roll feeder and cross cutter. The roll feeder slides out from a tray located on the bottom of the machine and folds out. This is useful for rolled media or material. It can hold both 9-inch rolls and 12-inch rolls, with a maximum roll diameter of 3 inches. The back of the machine houses the cross cutter. After you've cut your material, you can then unlock the cross cutter and slide the cross cutter blade along the track of the cross cutter cartridge. It also has a dual carriage, but it is different than the Cameo 3. Instead of blue and red, this one has a Carriage 1 and Carriage 2. Carriage 1, which is on the left, can take the Cameo 4 auto blade. This tool carriage runs on a solenoid motor, which helps with speed and accuracy. Its cutting speed is 3 times faster than the Cameo 3. Carriage 2 on the right runs on a different kind of motor, which can cut deeper because of the amount of downward force it can deliver. Carriage 2 is for the rotary blade and craft blade, which needs that extra force to cut thicker or more sensitive materials. Carriage tools are the tools that perform the functions needed to create your projects. With Silhouette products, you can do a whole lot. This ranges from cutting, embossing, debossing, etching, or stippling. Let's talk about the blades. The blades are the tools that are going to cut your material. New blades have been introduced since the Cameo 4 came out, but this is still a good chart to reference back to if you have a Cameo 3 or a Cameo 4 and using Cameo 3 blades. Most blades are a standard size and can be used in the Silhouette Curio or Portrait. Most can also last up to 6 months, but it depends on how much you use it and the materials you are cutting. Thicker materials will wear down the blade quicker. A sharp clean blade means a nice clean cut. Let's start with manual adjusting blades. These are tools that you have to manually adjust the levels of the blade using the handheld blade adjuster. This includes the ratchet blade, fabric blade, premium blade, and deep cut blade. The ratchet blade, fabric blade, and premium blade are fairly similar. However, the ratchet blade can cut paper, heat transfer, cardstock, vinyl, and other materials. The fabric blade is just like the ratchet blade, however it has a blue casing so you can distinguish the two. The premium blade cuts the same materials as the ratchet blade. However, it lasts 3 times the life of a ratchet blade. As you can see, the first 3 blades have a cut depth of 1 millimeter. However, the deep cut blade goes up to 2 millimeters. Therefore, it is used to cut chipboard, foam, and other thick media up to 2 millimeters. And lastly, we have the Cameo 3 Auto Blade. This is only for the Cameo 3. It self-adjusts based on the cut settings that you enter in the Send panel in Silhouette Studio. Older Silhouette tools won't fit into the dual carriage of the Cameo 4. There are 4 different adapters you can use. So there is that downside. However, the Cameo 4 is compatible with 3 new specialty tools: the rotary blade, the 3mm craft blade, and the punch tool for Cameo 4. The rotary blade is used to cut fabric materials like cotton, fabric, felt, leather, and more. Notice how it is different than other blades. The craft blade cuts materials like acetate, craft foam, and burlap. The punch tool punches holes in the spaces you need to weed vinyl or heat transfer vinyl, making weeding faster and easier. Sketch pens are small pens that allow you to draw instead of cut and give your designs a hand-drawn look that you might not really achieve if it was printed. You can also purchase a pen holder so you can use other things like a marker or even a pencil. Here we have a pen holder that is purchased from a different company. You can also use sketch pens in the Cameo 4. You can use the sketch pen adapter to use the sketch pens with the black body. It also has its own pen holder tool. The stippling and etching tool and the wide and fine embossing tools can be used only with the Silhouette Cameo. If you're using either the Cameo 3 or Cameo 4, you're going to want to use a cutting mat. You can use a standard tack, which has a medium amount of stickiness, and it is good for cardstock. You can also go with light tack, which is good for delicate materials like copy paper. Or you can use the strong tack. This one is the stickiest. It is good for thicker materials and fabric. All 3 have a cutting size area of 12 by 12 inches. There are also ways to cut without a mat. The Cameo 3 can kiss cut. Kiss cutting is a form of cutting which leaves light impression cuts through the material, but not through the backing material. So it can only kiss cut materials that have a backing like adhesive vinyl or heat transfer vinyl. Single layer materials such as cardstock or fabric need to be placed on a mat. There are separate instructions you need to follow for that, but our videos will cover cutting with a mat. The Cameo 4 has a pop-out cut mode. This allows you to cut materials like paper and cardstock without a cutting mat. With this feature, the Cameo 4 will make a cut but keep the material in place using perforation cuts in strategic places. Once the material is removed from the cutting machine, you can simply pop the cut design from the paper. This is good to save time and if you want to avoid the curling effect you get with really sticky mats. Picscan cutting mats are available for Cameo, Portrait, and Curio. This mat lets you cut precisely around a printed design or position cut lines in a specific location on your material, because you are able to see the material on your virtual mat in Silhouette Studio. The hook is the most essential tool when working on vinyl and heat transfer projects. It is mostly used for weeding. Silhouette makers can use it for other projects, like poking out those stubborn pieces of cardstock or pulling up the corners of sticker paper. A scraper is used to clean your cutting mats by scraping off pieces that are left behind. You can also use it to apply transfer paper to vinyl and eliminate air bubbles after you apply vinyl to a surface. Next is the spatula, which I find to be the most handy. You use it to lift delicate designs from the cutting mat without curling or tearing. The pointed tip makes it easy to get under tricky designs, and I've also used it to scrape off bits that are stuck. Just make sure to not press too hard onto the mat and to clean it after you are done. And here's the Pick Me Up tool. This tool does just that. It is there to pick up those little guys that get left on the mat. It has a tacky tip for picking up and placing small objects and a sharp tool to poke out hard-to-reach parts. Here are other tools and materials that I find useful. There are several materials that you can use, including
cardstock, heavyweight cardstock, adhesive cardstock single-sided, chalkboard cardstock, white adhesive cardstock, medium weight cardstock, construction paper, decorative scrapbook, text weight paper, which is copy paper, watercolor paper, fabric, smooth heat transfer, flocked heat transfer, glitter heat transfer, glow-in-the-dark heat transfer, printable heat transfer for dark fabrics, printable heat transfer for light fabrics, stencil material sheets, adhesive and non-adhesive, stencil vinyl with transfer tape, binder dividers if they are thin enough, chipboard, cork sheets, corrugated paper, adhesive, cotton canvas printable, cotton fabric printable, double-sided adhesive sheets, glitter in bold and pastel colors, duct tape sheets, faux leather paper, craft paper, printable and adhesive, leatherette sheets, magnet paper, printable, magnet paper, adhesive, sticker paper, foil, silver, gold, and rose gold, temporary tattoo paper, vellum, washi sheets, window cling, wood paper sheets, glossy vinyl, matte vinyl, metallic vinyl, printable vinyl, glow-in-the-dark vinyl, whiteboard vinyl, black chalkboard vinyl,
and other materials that makers have tried and successfully cut, although they might not be recommended or can be trickier to execute. In order to effectively use all of those materials, you need to adjust your settings before you send your designs to cut. Just to be clear, we have downloaded the Silhouette Studio Basic Edition. The Send panel allows you to adjust your cut settings so that you can make the perfect cut. There are 3 actions you can choose in the Send tab: Simple, Line, and Fill. The Send screen has 2 parts, the panel on the right-hand side and your design on the left. The right panel shows the action tabs and options. You'll notice that the cut lines of your design are thicker and bolder, so you can see exactly what the silhouette is going to cut. If you need to make any adjustments to your designs, you have to go back to the design screen. You can only move your design while you are in the Send tab. In the Simple panel, you just have to choose your material, your action, and your tool, and cut lines. In the Line panel and Fill panel, you can get more advanced settings. Here you can assign which task the silhouette will do according to the image's line color or fill color. The cut settings are below the action settings. This allows you to adjust the blade and force. There are 4 different types of settings. Now, if you use the auto blade and choose the correct material, the software will automatically change the settings. However, sometimes it doesn't always work and you need to tweak the settings a bit. So it's important to know which each one of them does. First is the blade number. This indicates the amount of blade exposed from the blade tip in 0.1 mm increments. The higher the number, the more blade exposed, and therefore the deeper your cut will be. If your cuts are too deep, you can reduce the blade number and decrease the exposed blade tip. Speed controls the speed at which the machine operates. This is the left and right movement of the blade carriage, as well as the in and out movement of the roller bar feeding the mat or material in and out of the machine. Faster levels make the overall cutting process go faster. You can lower the speed level if you are finding that certain parts of the design are tearing. This happens most often in the corners of the design, or if the material is being lifted from the backing during the cutting process. Force controls how hard the blade is pressing down. If your material is tearing and cutting too deeply, you will want to reduce the force. If the blade is not cutting all the way through the material, or just scoring the surface, you can increase the force. Now we'll take a look at passes. This is a number that tells the machine how many times it should cut the design. The default is 1 for most materials. For some thicker materials, it may be increased as needed. If you are cutting a thicker material and it is not cutting through after increasing other settings, you may wish to increase the number of passes to achieve a cleaner or more complete cut. In the Send panel, you also have the ability to send a test cut before you send the project. This creates a small square and a triangle at the top left-hand corner. You can also add a pause if you needed to change your tool. To show how to send a cut, I'm just going to choose a free design from the Silhouette library. I'm going to choose this dinosaur here. We first open the Send panel and choose material from the drop-down list. I am choosing cardstock plain. Next, we choose the action, which is cut, and make sure that the correct tool is selected. The auto blade will automatically adjust my blade settings. Silhouette Studio lets us know that we still need to load the material. Before we do, we make sure our material fits perfectly on the mat. Next, we line up the material with this line on the machine. Once it's aligned, we are going to click on the load button on the machine. Silhouette Studio should now say ready. Finally, we click send. You click the unload button once it's done to remove the cutting mat. And there you have it. Thanks for watching!